I walked into my favorite country bar and grill and found a small table at the back, ordered a sandwich, fries, and a beer. I sat there, focused on the television, which happened to be on PBS. They were discussing country music, reminiscing about the old stars, most of whom have passed away now, though there are still a few around. As they delved into the stories of these legendary figures, there was a melancholic air, and I had never really understood how many of them came from impoverished backgrounds, never having owned much. As I was enjoying my meal, I looked up to see my best friend Bob and Olivia walking in, which shocked me. You see, I thought Olivia was my girlfriend. I had invited her out for the night, but she told me she had already promised to go out with some friends and suggested we go out tomorrow. Olivia and I have been dating for exactly 6 months, and my impression was that we were a couple. We spend almost every weekend together, and I feel deeply in love with her, and she has said she feels the same way about me. We've even discussed the possibility of getting engaged, but we thought there was no rush, especially since we've been dating. After the TV show ended, someone turned on the jukebox, playing the song, Crazy, which caught my attention. This is the second part of the song, I know you'll love me, if you're willing, and then one day you'll leave me for someone new. This made me think, if Bob is that new person, the question is Bob is well aware of my feelings for Olivia. I guess our brotherhood didn't mean much to him. I continued to listen to the song while they played the couple, and the last verse played, crazily thinking my love can hold you, I tried crazily, cried crazily, I'm crazy about you. I got up from my table and walked over to Bob and Olivia. They looked at me, and Bob started to say, Charlie, if I see you again, one of us will end up in the hospital for a long time. As for you, Olivia, I'm really disappointed. Apparently, we're done. You showed me your true self. I walked out of the bar. The next day, my phone kept ringing. It was Olivia, but I was not in the mood to talk. Later the phone rang again, this time it was Bob, so I answered. Hey, what do you want to do, Charlie? I'm really sorry, you know I've always found Olivia attractive, although we talked at work. I asked her out, and she agreed. Don't lie to me, you know she's my girl, and you asked her out. Charlie, how many times have you been with her? If you lie to me, I will not let you go. 3 times, Charlie. We've been together 3 times. We developed feelings for each other. I'm sorry, what about Alice? Does she know you've been unfaithful to her? She's much better than you deserve, Bob. I don't want to see you again, and as for Olivia, you two can have each other. I hung up the phone. Alice is Bob's girlfriend, and the 3 of us, Bob, Alice, and I all work in the same factory. There's a story about how we met. The phone rang again, this time it was Olivia. I thought I'd better face it. What's up, Olivia? I want to say I'm sorry. Bob asked me out a few times, and I finally agreed to go out with him once. It didn't make any sense. Don't talk nonsense, I've talked to Bob, and he told you that you've been with him at least 3 times. I bet the number is even more. Was the money good? Good luck to you 2 greedy people. I just want to say, Alice believes you and Bob are her friends. Stay out of my life, and don't call again. I grew up in Kentucky with 8 siblings, and I am the eldest. I played football in high school, and when I was a senior, I received a scholarship to a university in Ohio. I am 6 feet 3 inches tall and weigh 260 pounds. I am an offensive lineman. My parents could not afford to send me to college, so I seized the scholarship. I wanted to become a mechanical engineer because I enjoy hands-on work. I used to be a bit conservative, but I have a great fondness for the ladies. With several sisters, I learned to respect women. My mother's advice was that I should treat girls the way I would treat my own sisters. I became friends with a guy named Bob, who seemed very sociable. Although he was not a sportsman, he indeed had some wisdom. He claimed to have some family wealth, saying there isn't much now, but there might be an inheritance in the future. He was pursuing a degree in business management, and when football didn't take up my time, we would go out together. Bob got along well with ladies, and we attended many parties where women were never in short supply. I was a conservative person, but still, many girls were interested in me. I must admit, Bob did well in this regard, and my own shyness might have prevented me from starting conversations. After graduation, I stayed in Ohio and found a job as a mechanical engineer at Ford Motor Company with a stable salary. I found a small apartment near the factory. I also managed to get a newer pickup truck. Every week, I would save some money and send $500 to my parents each month to help out. My dad was a coal miner, and our family was very close-knit. Bob found a job at a warehouse in the city, right next to the Ford factory. It turned out he was one of our suppliers and eventually got promoted to warehouse manager. We would go out on weekends, and he confided in me that he had a girlfriend at work named Alice, who was in charge of inventory control. He introduced me to Alice, and let me tell you, I could have been smitten instantly, but Bob and I had a solid bro code not to interfere with each other's girls. It was a tough choice, but I decided to stick to that principle. I had gone on a couple of dates with one or two girls from my own factory, but just as friends. I couldn't often go on double dates with Bob because, despite the feelings stirred up around Alice, she was always kind to me. Bob invited me to their factory's Christmas party since they were one of our suppliers, and I thought why not, so I agreed to go. At their gathering, I met an amazing girl named Olivia. She had some curves and a really nice figure. Olivia dressed more provocatively than Alice and was very flirtatious. She shared that she worked with Bob and Alice as a secretary for the upper management. I told her about my job, and we danced all night. We decided to meet again and even went out with Bob and Alice on New Year's Eve. Alice said something, expressing happiness that I found someone, but the sincerity was lacking. That night I took Olivia back to my place, and she was really impressive, if you know what I mean. The next morning, Olivia was surprised that I lived in a modest apartment. I explained that my job was relatively new, and I didn't need much because I was still sending money home to help my family. I let her know that one day I would worry about all these material things, but not now. She mentioned that Bob's family was wealthy and wondered if it was true, considering he was my best friend. I confirmed it and mentioned that they paid for his education. Our dating story continued, and we spent almost every weekend playing around town. My feelings grew deeper, and she reciprocated with feelings just as deep. We did a lot of things together, and of course, the action in the bedroom was a highlight. I must admit, her flirtatious attitude and constant talk of material things didn't completely make me comfortable. I tried to assure her that we could build a great life together, but still, when we went on double dates with Bob and Alice, there was a sense of unease. There was a tension between us that I couldn't quite figure out. Olivia and I had been together for about half a year, and we had discussed our future, possibly getting engaged one day. Olivia said we didn't need to rush into making decisions. We went to a county fair, and at one of the budget jewelry booths, I bought Olivia a friendship ring. I let her know it meant she was mine until she was ready to take the step towards engagement. She grinned as she put it on. By the way, I should mention the someone else at work. I saw her having lunch with her boss Brad, and it seemed like a regular thing. I considered telling you, but I didn't want to hurt you if I was wrong. Then I found out about Olivia and Bob, and as soon as I found out, I broke it off with him. I cut off contact with both of them. It's a bit difficult seeing them together at work, but I keep myself busy. Alice, thank you for reaching out. I'm really worried about you. You're one of my closest friends. Maybe we can get together sometime. I'd like that, Charlie. After our conversation, I'm not sure if I feel better or worse. A few weeks passed, and one night I ran into Alice at the supermarket by chance. Hey, Charlie, nice to see you. How's your dating going? Not bad. I've turned down a lot of dates because there's someone special on my horizon, and I don't want to mess it up if he decides to call. Oh, the band doesn't start for another hour, giving us time to chat. I was surprised to find out she's originally from Kentucky, right next to the county where I grew up. She went to college there, applied for jobs, and eventually found a position at a supply factory in Ohio. We ordered food. I got a double bacon cheeseburger and fries. She opted for a Reuben sandwich, and we shared the fries. It felt really great reconnecting with her. She did ask if this was the bar where I caught Bob and Olivia. I confirmed that it was indeed the place, but I'm not going to let a couple of cheats ruin my favorite hangout. She just smiled in response. When the band started playing, we got up to dance. They opened with 2 slow songs, encouraging couples to take to the dance floor. Their playlist always features classic hits, which is what the crowd wants to hear. They switched to faster tunes, and we both sat down. I told Alice that I'm not really into fast-paced dancing, but I enjoy watching the ladies move. They played a few Roy Orbison songs, and I've always had a soft spot for his music. Afterward, they performed a few Loretta Lynn songs, and Alice and I slow danced together. The MC called the ladies for a line dance, and some men even joined in. I jokingly asked Alice, "Why don't you join the line dance? You just want to check out my big." She teased, smiling as she got up and joined the other ladies. The line dance began, and I couldn't help but keep watching Alice. She looked straight at me, gently swaying her hips, smiled, and I even applauded for her. After the music ended, she came over with a smile, and I leaned in to kiss her, then apologized. She replied that she didn't regret it and kissed me again. We danced, drank beer, and had a great time as the hours flew by. They announced the last song was coming up, and I held Alice close, swaying to the music. As the song ended, I leaned in to kiss her lips. I walked her to her place and asked if she'd like to go out again next Saturday. I suggested we could visit a big amusement park in Ohio, Cedar Point. She happily agreed, and we exchanged goodnight kisses. On our first date, I didn't want to rush things. All week I felt great. On Friday, I called Alice to confirm our plans for Saturday. She mentioned she had heard about the park but had never been there before. On Saturday morning, I picked her up, and we set off for the park. On the drive, we chatted, and I brought up the topic of whether she had told Bob or Olivia that we were dating. She told me she hadn't spoken to either of them about it. We had a wonderful time at the park, riding all the roller coasters and trying out various other attractions. There were also many performances at the park, and we watched some on our way back. We decided to have dinner at the Texas Roadhouse. When we got back, both of us were quite tired. Alice shared an apartment with a roommate named Jo, a friendly lady around 50 years old who worked in a retail store. Alice was grateful to have such a roommate because Jo treated her like family, and they had a close relationship. I told Alice I would be out of town the next weekend but expressed my hope to see her the week after that. She replied that I should call her when I got back. We shared a kiss, and I told her I really cared about her. She responded that she had always liked me too. As soon as I got home, I called her right away and invited her to an important dinner event. My boss was hosting an anniversary celebration for himself and his wife, which would be held at the Hilton Hotel. I explained to Alice that due to the expected drinking, I had booked a hotel room for the night. I understood if she wasn't willing to attend. Her response was positive. "Charlie, I'd love to go with you, we don't need 2 beds, you know I'm in love with you. Just be honest and don't mislead me. Will we use your car? I'd rather not drive my truck to a grand event." "Of course, we can use your car, and I'll let Jo know I won't be home that night." I parked the truck at her place, and we decided to use her car for the event. On the way, Alice mentioned she was considering finding a new job because she often felt uncomfortable seeing Bob and Olivia. She even shared a rumor that Olivia might be pregnant. For the party, I got dressed in the bathroom, wearing a tuxedo, and when I walked into the bedroom, Alice looked beautiful. She was wearing a form-fitting blue dress that accentuated her figure, her hair fell to her shoulders, and she had an elegant and charming demeanor. "You look absolutely beautiful, I might not even care about the party itself," I said. Her response was playful, "Oh, no, you won't. I didn't dress up just for this, only to change again," she affectionately referred to as my little girl. "Mr. Carter, I'd like to speak with you about marrying your daughter. I'm here to ask for your blessing." Alice and I haven't discussed this yet, so she looks a bit surprised and tearful. She looks at me, and although we haven't been together long, our love is strong, and we believe we can build a great married life together. "Charlie, I appreciate you coming to talk to me, although it wasn't necessary. You should know by now that Alice follows her heart." "Alice, do you love Charlie?" "Yes, Dad, I truly love him with all my heart." "Then you have my blessing, but on one condition: the 2 of you must get married in Kentucky so that your mother and I can give you a proper wedding. Oh, and we'll cover the expenses." Everyone was surprised when I took out an engagement ring from my pocket and got down on one knee to propose to Alice. She said yes, kissed me, then ran to kiss her father and hugged her mother, who was shedding tears of joy. We all stood up and enjoyed a wonderful dinner together. We went back to my parents' house and told the Carters that we would inform them of our future plans. When we shared the news of our engagement with my mother and father, they were both very happy. Many of my relatives who still live nearby came over for a barbecue. My dad proudly took on the role of the barbecue master, and my mom was inside preparing the meat and other dishes. Alice offered to help with the cooking, saying she enjoys cooking. All my relatives came over to greet me and meet Alice. She was the first woman I brought home to meet my family, and they all assured me that she was a decent person and encouraged me to make her happy. After a day of lively celebration, we said goodbye to our relatives and promised to keep them informed about our wedding date. Just before we went to bed, Alice whispered to me that my mom had warned her about an obstacle on the stairs. It turned out she accidentally kicked a pair of shoes, which rolled down the stairs. Alice tried to apologize, but my mom comforted her by saying that she had been young too, and Alice's lively spirit might be the reason she ended up with so many children. Alice came back downstairs, and we shared a quiet and intimate moment. We tried to keep it down, but you know how it is. She didn't go back upstairs until almost 5 in the morning. After a night of intimacy, we fell asleep. In the morning, my mom and Alice exchanged a knowing smile. We all enjoyed a hearty country breakfast, then said our goodbyes with hugs and kisses before heading home. On Monday, Alice had an appointment with Human Resources. By Tuesday, she received a call from Mary, telling her she got the job and could give 2 weeks' notice. She called me to share the news, but I was already in the loop. We decided to go out to celebrate dinner that night at my favorite country bar. At the restaurant, we both ordered steak dinners. Alice mentioned that Bob and Olivia were on vacation that week and were going to Las Vegas to get married. She commented that it had been the most enjoyable 2 weeks at the factory since she didn't have to deal with Bob and Olivia. She added that everyone would miss her, but they understood she was pursuing better opportunities. Working at Ford means having one of the highest-paying jobs in the area. Alice felt fortunate to have gotten the interview and the job. She kept our dating and engagement a secret, never letting anyone else know. She revealed that before leaving, she left an anonymous note on Bob's desk. The note suggested he consider a DNA test after the child was born, as his wife often had lunch with her boss. The note ended with congratulations, but she deliberately did not sign it. Since she started working where we did, whenever a man approached her asking for a date, she always responded with a bright smile. She proudly displayed her engagement ring and made it clear that she was engaged to me. They knew better than to cross any boundaries. Alice shared that Joe was helping her plan the wedding. Joe played the role of a caring guardian. Joe had a married daughter, and she and Alice became close friends, sharing expenses as roommates. I would make a special effort to come by a few times a week to help out as much as I could. I contacted my mom and asked if she could provide a list of relatives and friends to invite to our wedding. My mom went a step further and bought the invitations, handling the invitations for us. I provided the date for our wedding 4 months later. Alice shared the wedding date with her mom. Her parents took on the responsibility of finding a suitable church and a spacious reception venue. Her mom volunteered to send out the invitations to their side of the family. Given her dad's business background, he had many contacts and clients. Although I felt quite anxious about everything and actually contributed the least. I asked a few colleagues if they were interested in attending the wedding. I told them we were planning to get married in Kentucky, and to my surprise, many said they would attend. Thanks to Joe's contacts in the retail store, she arranged a tailor for Alice's wedding dress. Joe also confirmed that she and her daughter would attend the event. Sophia, Alice's mom, called to tell us that she had settled on the caterer, but she mentioned the need for a head count closer to the wedding date. Sophia also mentioned that her husband Hank had arranged a talented band. It seemed everything was going smoothly. I asked Alice if she thought we were going overboard with the preparations. Clearly, this grand wedding would come with a hefty price tag. Charlie, this grand wedding is entirely my parents' idea, they've dreamed of a wedding like this since I was a child. Trust me, my sisters will have similarly lavish weddings. Why didn't you tell me you come from a wealthy family? I concealed my family's financial background because I wanted you to be interested in me as a person, not for anything else. By the way, I only shared this with Joe, even Bob doesn't know. Has this discovery changed your opinion? No, I'm interested in you as a person, not for anything else. If you like, I'm willing to sign a prenuptial agreement. Charlie, there's no need to sign a prenuptial agreement. I believe we will be together forever. Besides, I don't have much wealth now. Maybe I'll inherit some in the future, but not much now. I will now have a loving husband to support me. Alice arranged her bridal party lineup. Her father would walk her down the aisle, her sister would serve as the maid of honor, and her younger sister would be one of the bridesmaids. She also invited my 2 married sisters to serve as bridesmaids. My brother-in-law would be my best man, and my single brother would pair up with her sisters. As a result, my brother would end up being my best man. My niece and nephew were chosen to be the flower girl and ring bearer, respectively. We contacted all of them, and they were happy to accept. Thank goodness, it really became a family affair. Alice excelled in her new job, and everyone loved her. She had only been there for 4 months and hadn't accumulated any vacation days. We brainstormed and considered the option of leaving on Friday night, getting married on Saturday, and returning on Sunday. It would be a whirlwind trip, but it seemed feasible given the limited options. Just 2 weeks before the wedding, the factory manager called me to his office. We had a good relationship, and he even mentioned that he planned to attend the wedding. "Hey, Charlie, I heard you've had some issues around the wedding. Mary mentioned you plan to leave on Friday, get married on Saturday, and come back on Sunday, right?" "Yes, Mark, that's the plan. Alice doesn't have any remaining vacation days left." "Well, Charlie, make sure you let your lovely wife know that we're giving her off from Thursday all the way through next week. You don't have to rush to get there or hurry back. Wait, also, I have 2 4-day cruise tickets here as a honeymoon gift." Ty woke up and my mother insisted that I have breakfast. I couldn't get through the day with a stomach full of anxiety. During our breakfast conversation, my mom mentioned that they had met the Carter family and found them to be very nice people who spoke highly of me. After breakfast, I took a long shower and shaved. I dressed in a tuxedo, a white one to match Alice's dress. My brothers were there too, dressed in black tuxedos, all 4 of them part of the wedding party. It was time to head to the church. The church was located in the neighboring county, but only 20 miles away. The church was quite large, and my brother mentioned it could accommodate over 600 people. As the guests began to arrive, I was delighted to see some colleagues, my boss Mark and his wife who had flown in especially for the occasion. Then I was told to go to the front of the church because Alice's limousine had arrived, and I shouldn't see her before the ceremony began. I went up front to have a brief chat with my parents, and a lady began to play music on the organ. After a few songs, the guests were asked to take their seats as the wedding was about to start. Every wedding has its unique touches, and I walked to the front and stood next to the minister. The first to walk down the aisle was Sandy, accompanied by my brother. They made a great couple, and they walked down together, taking their places at the front. Then came Mary, walking down with one of my other unmarried brothers. After that, my married brothers and their wives walked down the aisle together. One of my nephews walked down as the ring bearer, and I held the real wedding ring in my pocket. 2 people rolled out a white cloth, and my niece scattered rose petals down the aisle. The music changed, everyone stood, and the wedding march began. Alice walked down the aisle with her very proud father. She looked beautiful, like an angel. I could feel tears streaming down my face. "Here comes the bride," her mother and I said, and her father responded. We exchanged our vows, I placed the ring on her finger, and then I was given the signal to kiss the bride, which I did. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Charles Jones." Everyone stood and applauded. We stood at the church entrance with the rest of the wedding party, thanking all the attendees. It took over 30 minutes for the church to empty, and after people left, they all went to the rented hall. When we arrived at the hall, drinks and appetizers were prepared for everyone, and the band was playing, although not many people were dancing at that moment. The tables were set. As soon as we entered, the crowd stood and cheered for us. Mr. Carter made a few remarks, then announced that the food was ready. The food tables were set on both sides to ensure everyone could get food quickly. Although Alice and I were served first, we were probably the last to finish because we kept responding to the clinking of glasses, kissing every 10 seconds. Some tables were moved away from the dance floor to make more room for dancing. Alice and I were the first couple to step onto the dance floor, followed by the rest of the wedding party, and then everyone joined in. The reception lasted for a full 4 hours, with some guests even going for another round on the food. It was truly a wonderful night. Epilogue: we had a delightful time on the cruise, and bringing the truck to the wedding was a good decision. I rented a small U-Haul and loaded it with all the gifts we received. Back home, we started looking for a new house. Eventually, we found a 3-bedroom place with a hot tub. We initially stayed in my small apartment for a few weeks, but Alice felt we needed more space. We decided to leave the gifts we brought back at Joe's house since we wouldn't be living there. We checked to see if she could manage on her own, and she assured us she had no financial issues. She enjoyed taking care of Alice, but now the responsibility is shared by me. Every night, we would write thank you cards together. I believe we are almost done now. We still have lunch together about 3 times a week while at work. It has been 3 months since the wedding, and things are going very smoothly. We haven't had any arguments, always discussing and resolving any disagreements between us. We have always been told that communication is key, and it is something we actively practice. Alice mentioned that a friend from another workplace called her. Olivia found out that Bob was in financial trouble, heavily in debt. There was also a rumor that someone suggested Bob consider a DNA test when Olivia had the baby, but they were not sure what the source of the information was. A few weeks later, Alice received another call, informing her of some issues between Bob and Olivia. It turned out that Bob took the DNA test, confirming he was not the father of the child. Isn't that wild? Thank you for reading my story. The part about country music is true, I actually saw it on PBS. The end.